Moon Knight. Have you finished it?
Yeah, I finished Moonlight.
Cool. Let's talk about that. Man, I feel like it's just another. It's more proof that their episode format doesn't give them nearly enough time to tell a complete story. Do you feel that way as well?
Not really. I feel like Moon Knight. I'll say I feel like the finale was rushed. I feel like up to the finale it was fine. I feel like the finale was rushed.
If it
I
had
feel like
even
it was that way
one
for
more,
WandaVision as well. I didn't really get that with Loki or Hawkeye or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it has been that way to me for WandaVision and for Moon Knight.
yeah,
Like
for
the last
Loki,
episode just felt very out of place.
Loki for me was the complete opposite. Like I'm pretty sure you like Loki, right?
That's my favorite Marvel Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my least favorite Marvel Disney Plus show. Like me, you have very differing opinions of Loki, and for me, it was the complete opposite of having too little time. And I feel like Loki didn't utilize its time well enough and wasted its time a lot. Whereas with literally every single one of the other shows, I feel like by the time you get to the very last episode, things are being rushed. And if they had just one more episode, like initially I told you I wished Falcon Winter Soldier was a movie, and then I changed my mind. I was like, no, it needed to be longer because that's a tough one because Falcon and Winter Soldier was the one Marvel show like that was filmed at like the height of the pandemic, so they came across a lot of troubles with the production because of that. So it's much more understandable why that one is that way. Whereas the ones afterwards is a little bit like the pandemic was still happening, but it was lessening, and it's more a matter of them being restricted by the 6 episodes more so than them being held up by the pandemic. So I just feel like at a certain point they gotta. I would say I think that 8 episodes would be a sweet spot. Just 2 more episodes. I feel like I think Hawkeye should have had a whole episode where me and you talked about it. You didn't know about it until I said it. Like Hawkeye, there were deleted scenes that were about Hawkeye's backstory, Clint Barton's backstory, and I think we should have had a whole episode about Clint Barton's backstory, and we should have had a whole episode about why Kingpin is there, and showing us more about Kingpin and MCU and a little bit more about Echo and her father. And I thought they should have done that too. Like I feel like you give all of these shows just 2 more episodes, just two, and the stories will just be much more succinct and feel much more well-rounded and feel like they will be concluded well, you know. For Moon Knight, I think there were two things that we absolutely needed that we didn't get that made some things fall really, really flat. I think we should have had an episode instead of a really short flashback where we just see the aftermath of what happened when Layla Dads died and Mark becomes Moon Knight. I think we should have had a whole flashback episode where we see why Mark was in Egypt. We get to see his CO. We get to see the fallout and his CO shoot him and kill all the prisoners, and then see him become Moon Knight at the very end. I think that we should have had a whole episode for that. Or we should have half the episode be that, and then the next half of the episode be him meeting Layla, and just learning more about Layla, learning more about Layla's dad, and therefore making the whole story about Layla's dad more impactful. Because I didn't care. they kept harping on it, but I just didn't care because I didn't know who he was. I didn't really know enough about Leia to care that she was sad about her father. I just feel like 1 or 2 more episodes would make these shows so much better. Also, the formula is it's starting to weigh on me. It's been weighing on me for a while, but the shows, there's only been 5 of them so far, and their formula is already starting to get tiring on me. Not just the 6 episode limit, but also the fact that every time at the end of the show they have this big CGI fight, and I just feel like Moon Knight didn't need to have that. I also feel like we don't get enough. We in this first season, I hope this changes in the second season because I think they're making a second season, or at least it feels like they are. If not that, a movie. That we should have gotten so much more. Moon Knight just beating the shit out of goons, hand-to-hand combat, no CG. You feel that way, right? We didn't get enough of that.
That's my biggest complaint is that this entire thing felt more like Bleed than it did like Moon Knight,
It was
because
too like
it was way too
magical.
supernatural and
It
way
was
too
too
superpowered.
supernatural. That's the word I was looking for. It was way too
Like by far, like Moon Knight, all of the worst Moon Knight stories, all the worst rated Moon Knight stories are all the supernatural ones. All the best rated Moon
So hear
Knight
me out.
stories are all these street level ones. Like,
So hear me out. I wish that this was more street level, especially having read some Moon Knight comics. Like halfway through the season, I had read some Moon Knight comics and was like, man, this is so different from the show. I don't mind that they were supernatural. I think that there should have been a better balance. Um, I feel like you told me once that a lot of the Moon Knight comic, like from run to run, Moon Knight comics tend to be pretty drastically different. So I feel like even just
yeah,
having,
it's up until like the past like 20 years have been more consistent, but like before that, you kind of felt like you're reading a completely different series every single time.
I feel like maybe, depending on how many seasons the show gets, maybe like a third season, they could have been leaned into the supernatural side, and that could have been cool. Like after we already saw him be the grounded version for a while, I think that could have been interesting. But to start off with this big, like very what was the word you used? Supernatural story, I felt was strange for the character, and it doesn't very accurately depict who the character has been for the last 20 years.
This this version, I feel like the characterization of Mark Spector. Mark Spector was the only accurate personality. Just off the jump, Mark Spector was. I like Steven in this show, but Steven is very different in the comics.
Yeah, I like
Steven
him
is
too.
not the British one in the comics. Like I was a little confused because I was like, "Where's Jake? Jake is the British one. I don't know what I'm watching right now." I was a little confused,
And now
but
Jake's like Latino.
yeah, Jake is Latino. Which I have no problem with. I'm also Latino, but like that to me was just like a really weird change that didn't need to happen. I was just like honestly, they should have made Steven Latino and like, but kept the because the thing, Stephen Grant is a billionaire. He's the quote unquote Bruce Wayne like persona, but like still very different because I don't know why people keep making Moon Knight comparisons to Batman because they're very different characters. But um he's if he had a Bruce Wayne persona, this would be his quote unquote Bruce Wayne persona. But now he's this really sweet guy who works at a museum gift shop and is obsessed with Egyptian mythology. And I was just like, huh? What? Okay. Um, no, but Mark's characterization was pretty accurate. After that, it just feels like a completely different character. Uh I still don't know why they felt the need to make his suit into essentially the symbiote suit. Like he literally kind of like I didn't want to say glided, he flew. Like he
Yeah,
gained
no,
altitude.
that's the thing about them leaning so heavily into the spiritual side is that, like, with Khonshu's help, Moon Knight can basically do anything. Like, I feel like every time Khonshu decides to step in and use his power, Moon Knight can do anything. He like turned back the stars. He just made Mark straight up fly. Like, what can't Khonshu make him do? He also gave him like regeneration so strong that he can get stabbed by a bunch of spears and just stand up and break them and kill all the people that were stabbing him. Like, what?
Yeah, no, honestly, with Khonshu's help, Moon Knight did more than Khonshu did. Like all Khonshu did, like the most powerful thing Khonshu did by himself was like become like the super giant god thing. Like literally a Power Rangers fight. I didn't think Marvel would ever get to that level, but apparently they did.
Here's the thing. It makes sense. Okay, they're comic book characters, and I love Power Rangers, but it was very strange.
I knew you were gonna like that, but I hate Power Rangers, and so
Here's the
that
thing,
was
though. I didn't like it though. I didn't like their fight, the giant kaiju fight, even though I like me some kaijus. I just thought it was out of
I do
place.
like Kaijus. I will admit, I do like Kaijus. I
I
still hate
just
Power Rangers.
I felt like it was out of place.
It was so out of place. The whole show was out of place. If you look like
It
if,
was, bro.
if you look at it like his publication history and his story, the entire show was just out of place.
Here's the
Like
thing:
I don't
anybody who watches this show and never read a Moon Knight comic like myself and go and reads a Moon Knight comic, like I at least had an idea of who Moon Knight was. Anybody who knew nothing about Moon Knight and jumps into comics and like, this is absolutely nothing like the show. I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah, my friend Mason, he not the Mason you know, but my friend Mason, he was like, oh, I'd never read a Moon Knight comic, and so I went to go read a Moon Knight comic. I thought I was reading the wrong comic, and I was like, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand why because I thought I was watching the wrong show. Honestly, it was very confusing.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of they're doing better than the comics do with kind of like explaining the fact that there are several different afterlives. And I do like the idea of there being the Egyptian gods that can imbue people with their like powers. And Layla is being like imbued with the power of Tawaret, and she becomes like a, from what I understand, from what people have said, a gender bent version of the Scarlet Scarab. And was it like Disney Plus's Twitter had released something where they officially called her Scarlet Scarab. And yeah, it's also very cool to have a character um from who actually is a native of a country and has the powers of the, you know, the gods from that country, because I feel like that never happens. There's always just some American dude who comes and gets the Egyptian powers and he's the superhero rather than actually being an Egyptian person.